Number 10. Uncle Marvel. For those who are new to the DC Captain Marvel world and whose introduction to the character may have been with the first film Shazam, you might not know about the extended members of the Shazam or Marvel family. But don't worry, we're here to make sure no one ever forgets. Uncle Marvel, you'd assume, was Billy Batson's uncle. But no, he actually claimed to be Mary Batson's uncle after discovering her superhero identity as Mary Marvel, but he really wasn't her uncle at all. Dudley H. Dudley was his civilian name, and he was originally the janitor at their school. Still, despite the fact that the Marvel team knew that Dudley was a fraud, or a dud if you will, who made up the story of being Mary's uncle simply so he could join them, they decided he was mostly harmless and enjoyed his company enough to accept him as Uncle Marvel, a portly older man with no powers who attributed his frequent power loss to his ever-flaring Shazambago. Ouch, my Shazambago.
Number 9. Sparky. Once a sidekick to one of DC's most underrated heroes, the original Blue Beetle, comes Sparkington J. Northrup, an American orphan who was adopted by Lord Wellington Northrup of Suppleshire, England. All was well and good with his life up until World War II, when Sparky was sent back to the US by his dad for safety, where he ended up becoming the sidekick of the hero Blue Beetle instead. Although he doesn't look like much, Sparky is actually a pretty decent fighter and was a huge asset during his time as Blue Beetle's sidekick. Described by Blue Beetle himself as a fighting, leaping little athlete on whom he can depend on for assistance at all times, it was really strange that he just kinda up and vanished from the series in 1942. However, he did show up again a year later to help the Beetle on the Western Front. Once the war was finally over though, Sparky was able to return to his home in England and retire from the hero business forever.
Number 8. Alpha. This Spider-Man sidekick happened to go to the same school as Peter Parker and had a similar accident which granted him superpowers. However, he was known for being an underachiever with a C-grade average, and it was his laziness and lack of responsibility when it came to wielding his powers that prompted Spider-Man to remove Alpha's powers. Alpha originally became Spider-Man's sidekick after Spider-Man helped free him and his parents from Jackal, who had kinda hoped to take Alpha's powers for himself. It was after this encounter that Spider-Man both made him a sidekick and then kinda realized how irresponsible he was and decided to drain his powers using the villain Terminus's power siphoning staff. Slowly, Spider-Man would restore Alpha's powers over time. Alpha's civilian name is Andrew Maguire, no relation to Tobey Maguire, but his name does seem to be in honor of both Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, who had both played Spider-Man on the big screen previous to when his character was created.
Number 7. Nyx. Leaving Marvel and DC for a bit of a change, we're going to be taking a look at Image Comics' Carrie Andrews, the on-again, off-again sidekick and love interest of the anti-hero Spawn. Becoming a spellcaster by the age of 4, Carrie was originally just a witch who was interested in Spawn, who named herself Nyx after the powerful Greek goddess. With a vast array of magical abilities including retrocognition, sound manipulation, and a psychic link, Carrie has been a huge help to Al Simmons' Spawn whenever she is by his side. She even at times donned the Spawn costume herself, which gave her all the powers of the Hellspawn alongside her magical abilities. During her time as Al Simmons' sidekick, she journeyed through the pits of hell, was possessed by a demon, and was even depowered by mystical forces. But in the end, she did get them back and decided to leave Spawn altogether, succumbing to the guilt she felt from the time that she betrayed the man she loved. Man, if that ain't true love, I don't know what it is.
Number 6. Bob. Bob used to work as a Hydra agent and was basically forced into becoming Deadpool's sidekick when Deadpool infiltrated a Hydra base and ran into the poor goon. He has popped up here and thereafter in the Deadpool comics, often appearing as Deadpool's reluctant or sometimes over-enthused sidekick, often hoping that Deadpool will treat him better this time around, only to be disappointed. At one point, Deadpool bought himself a pirate ship and had Bob join him once more as his sidekick, which meant not that Bob got to dress up as a badass pirate, but instead was forced to wear a parrot costume and finish every sentence with a squawk. During his time serving Deadpool on the ship, he almost died of dehydration due to how stuffy and how hot it was inside that costume under the blazing Caribbean sun. Poor Bob.
Number 5. DOIBY DICKLES. Now if you're not familiar with the first Green Lantern Alan Scott, then you probably don't know who Charles DOIBY DICKLES is. But hey, that's okay, that's what I'm here for. Back in the golden age of comics, Alan Scott had DOIBY join him on his adventures for pretty close to 8 years after DOIBY saved him from a group of gangsters. Although he didn't possess any powers, DOIBY is surprisingly badass, as not only was he a skilled fighter, he was an excellent driver and pilot. In his beloved taxi that he named Goitrude, he has driven Green Lantern around at lightning fast speeds, which honestly seems a little bit silly considering that Alan Scott could fly, but I don't know, maybe he got tired sometimes. DICKLES has made several cameo appearances since his original run ended, mostly as a comedic relief character in the early 2000s. His most famous modern appearance was when he joined a group of other forgotten Golden Age sidekicks in order to form the hilariously inept group Old Justice. Now I personally would love to see more of him in the future, so DC, get on that.
Number 4. TERRA. But not that TERRA. This TERRA is also known as BATLEY and is from an underground world known as Strata. Her and her people take it upon themselves to protect the Earth and its ecosystem. BATLEY herself was granted geokinetic powers, which she uses to do this. BATLEY's powers are a genetic duplicate of the original TERRA, who is often known for her ties to the Teen Titans, Tara Markov. BATLEY herself has teamed up with both Supergirl and Power Girl and has even allied herself with Harley Quinn, thinking she was doing good by helping Harley to steal from the Joker's vault. Which she sort of was.
Number 3. Zook. Now I don't know about you guys, but I find it really hard to believe that the stoic and pretty much emotionless Martian Manhunter had this little guy as a sidekick. Hailing from an alternate dimension, Zook is a member of the alien race known as, well, Zooks, and came to Earth alongside a few other evil aliens after a portal was opened. Zook met up with Martian Manhunter while he was trying to apprehend the 2 evil aliens and instantly took a liking to the hero. And I think the feeling was a bit mutual because when Zook was left stranded on Earth when the dimensional rift back to his home was closed prematurely, John Jones took him under his wing. Zook has a number of abilities thanks to his alien physiology. He can change his body temperature to be extremely hot or extremely cold, he can see through disguises no matter how complex, and can flatten or expand his body as a defense mechanism or to make him fit into tight spaces. Sadly though, he disappeared from the DC continuity after the events of Infinite Crisis.
Number 2. Spider-Bite. Spider-Bite is Spider-Man's biggest fan and pint-sized sidekick, who has only appeared in one comic, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue number 6 from 2019. He helped Spider-Man take on the Sinister 60, though this is later revealed to be a make-pretend adventure for Spider-Bite's benefit. In reality, Spider-Bite is Nathan, a young boy who's fighting cancer and whose one wish was to become Spider-Man's sidekick, which is why Spidey came to join him for this adventure-filled day. At the end of Spidey's visit, Nathan doesn't want Spidey to leave, as he's afraid if he goes to sleep, he may never wake up. Spider-Man agrees to extend his visit and takes Nathan out with him for a bit to swing around New York. Aww.
Number 1. Zack. Just Zack. Created solely for the 1980s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon comes Zack, a little boy who appeared for the first time in Season 3 Episode 26 entitled The Fifth Turtle. As the biggest self-proclaimed TMNT fan, Zack was so crazy about the Turtles that he took up arms with a hockey stick, tossed on a green bandana, and attempted to help them in their fight against crime. Now obviously the Turtles wanted absolutely nothing to do with the young crime fighter at first because, well, they didn't want him to get hurt, but when Zack was able to secretly follow them back to their lairs, they decided that he had what it took to be a part of the team, making him the 5th Turtle. Although he's just a pretty average kid, Zack had a knack for solving mysteries and tracking down the bad guys, and across 4 seasons, he helped the Turtles go up against villains like the Rat King, Shredder, and even more. Although, he wasn't the best under interrogation though, since he was the only one not able to withstand the tickling interrogation, which, you know, I kinda understand because I'm pretty ticklish too.
Number 10. Prodigy. I feel like a lot of people maybe forgot about Prodigy as he's been MIA for some time in the comics and was depowered during the events of M-Day. But with the magic of Krakoa and Dawn of X, he was able to return to us, being resurrected and also regaining his powers. 1. Prodigy happens to be a super genius, but this is also because he's a telepath with the ability to basically mimic anyone's skill set and share their knowledge while nearby. This has also been shown in the past to extend to fighting precognition, where he can basically use his abilities to read a person and predict their next move of attack in a battle, which is pretty sweet. He often also builds his own advanced tech, and even when depowered is known to possess a great level of intellect, making him a challenging adversary whether or not he has his mutant abilities. Even as a depowered mutant, you might not want to mess with him. Number 9. Lady Mastermind. Lady Mastermind, aka Reagan Wingard, recently popped back up in the giant-sized Nightcrawler comics and was welcomed into the mutant nation of Krakoa. Some, however, may not know or appreciate her mutant history and background. Just who is Lady Mastermind? Well, she's the daughter of Jason Wingard, aka the original villain known as Mastermind. Her powers take after her father's, allowing her to create realistic illusions projected into her target's minds. While she also has an even lesser known suspected half-sister, Reagan's powers are often depicted as being the more powerful between the two, with it even being said that her abilities are even more stronger than her father's. Additionally, she is also fairly skilled in hand-to-hand combat, a skill set her father actually very much lacked. He was hilarious in a fight. He's like a rag doll. Sorry Mastermind. Number 8. Gentle. Gentle is a mutant with the abilities of super strength. I know, very hilarious considering his name. He can grant himself immediate muscle mass that basically allows him to change size and increase his strength when needed. It is yet unknown just how strong Gentle can make himself, and he is also known for being someone who could potentially even take on the Hulk, although he is more of a pacifist, hence his name. Gentle's real name is Nesno Abidemi. I hope I'm saying that right. Nesno Abidemi. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. It's a hard one to say. He was raised in Wakanda, but always felt like an outsider because his father was Russian. When his mutant abilities surfaced, it was actually Aurora Monroe Storm, who was queen at the time in Wakanda, who encouraged him to be sent to the Xavier Institute so he could learn how to better control his powers. His vibranium tattoos are also meant to help him to control those powers. Also, vibranium tattoos are super cool, but I think they're also super painful to get, so maybe don't get them. You can't, because it's not a real substance, but still. Number 7. Egg. Fabio Medina might not seem like a powerful mutant based on his ability, but since his rise to the supremely important mutant group known as the Five on Krakoa, he can be considered one of the most important and powerful mutants around. When he combines his powers with that of the Five, he has control over life and death. Originally, the bouncy gold balls that he shot forth from his chest were believed to be nothing special, but it was later revealed that these balls were actually infertile eggs, which could be used in the process of resurrecting new mutants. Number 6. Tempus. Eva Bell is another member of the Five. She has actually appeared in less issues than Egg, if you can believe it, despite the fact that she has a pretty neat power set, and it's been neat since the beginning, which allows her to time travel. Tempus, as she used to be known, was able to control the passage of time in a specific pocket of space. She could also slow time in a current space that she also inhabited, either slowing time around her or creating time bubbles to manipulate time in that bubble, where she could speed it up or slow it down. The only challenge for her has been losing control of her powers, which can cause them to behave unpredictably. Still, controlling time is a pretty impressive and powerful ability to have. Number 5. Empath. Manuel de la Rocha made his first appearance in the original New Mutant series, where he was part of Emma Frost's team known as the Hellions. He's recently reappeared in the newest Hellion series from 2020 and proves just how powerful, but also how sadistic he can be. Empath's power is, you guessed it, empathy, and he can use this power to not only sense others' emotions, but also to control them, in effect manipulating others into doing whatever he wishes them to do. His influence can be subtle, such that someone might not even realize they're being manipulated by him, or it can be more forceful, turning his victims into complete husks of their former selves and bending them fully to his will. Number 4. Vulcan. Vulcan is one of the most powerful mutants around, being an Omega level mutant, skilled in energy manipulation and absorption. Yet he is somehow the lesser known of all the Summers despite his insane power levels. He has also demonstrated the ability to absorb his opponent's powers as well and use them for himself on the rare occasion. Vulcan is the youngest Summers brother, also known as Gabe Summers, and we only learned of his existence in 2006 when he first appeared in the comic X-Men Deadly Genesis issue number 1, and yet he is considered the most powerful of these three. Number 3. Orphan Maker and Nanny. Orphan Maker still remains a relatively mysterious character, though is also one who still proves to be a force to be reckoned with in combat. Orphan Maker is also known as Peter and was part of a plot of Mr. Sinister's originally. However, when Mr. Sinister decided that Peter could not be controlled, he decided to eliminate him. Nanny, an insane cyborg, however, saved him, believing it was her responsibility to look after orphan mutant children and protect them. Although I will say she's got a weird way of going about it. While insane, Nanny was also once a scientist and remains quite intelligent. She actually outfitted Orphan Maker with weapons and a powerful suit to help her in her task. While it's still unclear as to what Orphan Maker's true mutant powers are, and while he seems to still have the mind of a child, probably due to Nanny's manipulation, his suit and weapons make him a formidable foe in combat, and he often uses pixie dust in battle to help Nanny influence and control the minds of their opponents, as she herself is a telepath, but a weak one, so she needs a little bit of help. Needs a little bit of pixie dust. Even during a fight with Cyclops, Scott's optic blasts were unable to harm Orphan Maker while he was in his armor, with Scott's blast simply reflecting off the armor, causing more harm than help, really. Number 2. Trinary. Considering the modern age we live in, Trinary is a pretty powerful mutant. Her abilities allow her to control all tech that is within her line of sight. She has used these powers to move massive sums of money digitally and to manipulate and control Sentinel tech. Currently on Krakoa, Trinary is one of the few technopathic mutants trusted with the important project known as Sleeping Giant, wherein mutants monitor for upcoming advancement in sentinel technology, such as Nimrods or the creation of a mother mold, so that they can ideally put a stop to its development. Project Sleeping Giant were instrumental in helping the X-Men to destroy a mother mold that Orchis was creating before it went online. Number 1. Bailey Hoskins. Now you might think I'm joking here if you happen to know the obscure Bailey Hoskins, but I'm really not. Bailey appeared in his own miniseries titled X-Men, Worst X-Man Ever. He was known for being the worst X-Man ever because his ability only allowed him to do one thing, explode. But he didn't have any regeneration powers, so he basically was a mutant who could never use his powers, otherwise he'd kill himself. It's kind of a one-hit wonder. So how is that powerful? Well, it's also implied in the series that when he does choose to sacrifice himself and blow up the villain of the story, that he makes it possible for Earth-616 to come into existence. So without him, we wouldn't have the main Marvel continuity that we know and love today, potentially. If saving the entire continuity from becoming a dystopian future isn't powerful, then I don't know what is.
Coming in at number 10, Simon Baz. First appearing in the New 52 FCDB Special Edition number 1, he's a Lebanese-American born in Dearborn, Michigan. After seeing the attacks of the World Trade Center on the news when he was only 10 years old, he and his family faced ostracism because they were Muslim. His sister even got bullied and attacked physically, so Simon would have to intervene. And as years went on, he got an engineering degree, and shortly after that, a job at an automotive plant. After the financial crisis, he was let go and had to resort to stealing cars and reselling the parts just to make ends meet. He was also a great street racer and even made some dough that way. Accidentally stealing a truck filled with explosives, Simon ends up getting arrested and they suspected him as a terrorist, sending him over to Guantanamo Bay. Ignoring his pleas of innocence, Simon was nearly tortured. It was then a Green Lantern ring popped into the room to save the day, removing him from the facility. So what makes Simon stand out? I mean, besides his strong origin story, he has emerald sight. Yeah, that's right, Simon Baz can see glimpses of the future. He also used to carry a gun with him even while wielding the Green Lantern ring. Why? Well, because he didn't trust a whole lot of people, and he wanted to back up in case the ring failed him, which it did a couple of times. The ring itself? It's actually 2 rings forged into one. Come again? So when Hal Jordan and Sinestro were imprisoned in the Black Hand's Black Lantern ring, the 2 rings actually fused together, and the ring chose Frank Leminski first. Frank had purposely gotten a job at Arkham Asylum because he knew the ring picked its host based on willpower and overcoming fear. And it worked out for a bit because it ultimately decided that it made a mistake and found none other than, you heard it, Simon Baz. Number 9, Guy Gardner. Making his first appearance in Green Lantern Volume 2, number 59, Guy Gardner was chosen to be the backup for Hal Jordan. The ring says you gotta have courage and willpower, but is it possible to maintain those characteristics whilst being a bad guy? A bad guy? Got him. Turns out it is very possible. While the events of the Blackest Night unfolded, Green Lanterns were exposed to other rings, and with his temper issues, he was bestowed the Red Lantern ring. He actually had both at one point. Christmas colors, fun, how beautiful. I mean, this guy may be a bit of a meanie, but ultimately with his willpower, he's proven that he can still be a hero after all. Nice. See, this is a character arc I would love to see in theaters. We need more Green Lantern movies like this. I mean, even in his early life, Guy was abused by his father Ronald. And I feel like these character arcs and backstories are important to see, especially when anger and willpower are balanced in his life story. These origins are relatable. Make it happen. Number 8, Chip. This one is too fun not to include. Making his first appearance in Green Lantern Volume 2, issue 149, Chip is, well, look it up, obviously. So basically, the Crapster army invaded Sector 1014, and once they killed that Green Lantern, Dr. Abex took his army and went to his homeworld, Hyven. This little man Chip was sentenced to death to set an example. Don't do it, look at him, please. He was the leader of the Hyvenite resistance, so it made sense to do it, I guess. Chip was then visited by one of the Guardians of the Universe, gave him a Green Lantern ring, and Bob's your uncle. So one thing I love about this dude is that he's a chipmunk, squirrel looking thing. He's so cute, and as you may have noticed, but that doesn't stop him from killing it. Yeah, he just rocked Hal Jordan. I'm a fan of Chip. He even took on the Man of Steel himself in an Injustice Gods Among Us storyline. He attacked Superman by going after his mind. I feel like if you have a movie with this guy, it'll feel similar to how Rocket was portrayed in Guardians of the Galaxy. At first people are like, he's a little fluffy cute thing, and then bam, you get punched in the head like 10 times. Number 7. Salak. Who's next on our list? None other than Chip's best friend. Salak is this cool looking four-armed alien Green Lantern from Sligia, one of them's right, who is a protector for the Book of Oa. He's quite tall, has pink skin and a beak-like mouth. Making his first debut in Green Lantern Volume 2, Issue 149, Salak is actually second in command right behind the Guardians of the Universe. Nice. He's a veteran with his power ring, so he doesn't really rely on it until he absolutely needs it. He's a pessimist and he's kind of a loner. I mean, aren't we all at some point? Come on. His importance doesn't go unnoticed. Being the protocol officer of the Corps, he plans missions and answers to none other than the Guardians of the Universe. It's kind of cool having your boss the Guardians of the Universe. Nice. And as I said earlier, his best friend is Chip. So once Salak was too late stopping the execution of Sinestro, so the Oa battery ended up being destroyed, making his ring inoperable. So he headed to Hyben to reunite with Chip, whose ring was one of the few that still worked. Clutch. So Salak acted as an advisor to him. What a power duo. I'd love to play Salak in a movie. I feel like I have the lankiness. I don't know. What do you think? He's taller than me. I mean, he's like 7 feet. I'm not too far off. Maybe. We'll see. Number 6, Chaselon.
Your species have any problem with that?
No, my arms are non-organic. I do, however, get silica mites.
Fascinating.
Perhaps we could consume refreshment together and speak of our adventures.
That's a cool looking thing. Making his first appearance in the Green Lantern Volume 2, Number 9, Chaselon is a being that can use 13 senses rather than our normal 5. The Green Lantern of Sector 1416 has a different appearance than usual, as you may have seen. I mean, look at him. So what exactly is this dude's deal? Well, he's from Barrio 3, which is a world where crystal life forms have dominated. So he's a sentient crystalline sphere, and like I said, can use 13 senses. Unreal. This dude's powers are super underrated, okay? He was given a power ring by the Guardians of the Universe due to his extensive willpower. He's also a member of the Alpha Lantern Corps and the Dark Stars, an intergalactic police force. Number 5, Hanu. Making its first appearance in Green Lantern Volume 3, Issue 49, and also appearing in the 2011 Green Lantern film, Ayo, Hanu is a beast of brute force. He's originally from the planet Ovicron 6. The warriors there think that using a weapon is overrated, it's frowned upon. They say a weapon makes you weak. Okay, super badass. So he relies on his own strength rather than the ring. That's cool. Yeah, I have a ring, but you know, I'd rather just punch you in the head. It's easier. This sure did come in handy when he was freed from a prison from Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner. He tore the place up without even using the ring. And when he does use it, it's insane, okay? So during the Sinestro Corps War, he finally used the ring to punch through Horku. And Horku's the same species as Hanu, so that doesn't shine light on how strong this dude is. I don't know what will. Number 4, Alan Scott. The Golden Age Green Lantern, making his debut in 1940 back in the All-American Comics number 16. He's the first ever Green Lantern, so of course I'm going to include him in this list. He actually forged a Green Lantern from a meteor. This dude was around even before the Green Lantern Corps, so he's not too popular with the current run of things. So he gets his power in a much different way than all of the other Green Lanterns. He actually uses a ring that's magic based instead of being linked to the central battery on Oa. I feel like we need to see this origin story on this big screen ASAP. It's too cool to ignore. Number 3, Sodom Yat. Making his first appearance in Tales of the Green Lantern Corps Annual number 2 back in 1986, Sodom Yat is a guy from the Daxamite race who are cousins of the Kryptonians. Pretty sweet. Daxamites have similar powers to Kryptonians, but instead of being vulnerable to kryptonite, they're vulnerable to lead. Just basic lead. So if you're gonna take some notes around Sodom, make sure you hide it or else you might kill him. So this guy's loaded. He's basically a god, but no lead. Kind of like no capes, no lead. He doesn't even really need a ring. He's already so strong from the ion entity has given him an unbelievable strength. He always dreamed of being a space explorer, so once he noticed an alien spaceship crash near Earth, he found Tessog, and after his parents caught wind of the new friend, his parents killed Tessog and brainwashed Sodom to forget the whole thing. After seeing Tessog in a museum, dead, he was reminded of the actions that had taken place, so he reconstructed Tessog's ship and then was bestowed the Green Lantern ring. Nice, you did it, full circle. And he became the ultimate Green Lantern and the last member of the Corps. The prophecy came from none other than, drumroll, number 2, Abin Sur. We all remember arguably the best part of the Green Lantern movie, the beginning. We find Abin Sur after he crash landed on Earth before giving the ring to Hal Jordan. The purple alien is portrayed by none other than Jango Fett himself, Temuera Morrison. But who is this character and why is he so important? Making his debut in Showcase number 22, Abin Sur was a Green Lantern from Sector 2814 and was the Green Lantern right before Hal Jordan as you saw in the movie. So before that, he actually visited Earth a handful of times. He teamed up with an ancestor of Hal Jordan in the American Old West to fight an alien named Traitor. Solid name, very fitting. So why is he flying a spaceship if he has the ring? Well, he was told by the prophecy that his ring would eventually fail him. So he loaded his spaceship up with weapons for when the frightful day comes. And after being attacked by Sinestro and crash landing on Earth, he chose Hal Jordan to bear the ring, as he was closer to his location than Guy Gardner. So close. Hal ended up using the ring to hide the body and his ship underneath a mountain. It's pretty cool. And finally, number 1, Nort. Making his first debut back in 1988 in Justice League International, this cool looking member of the Green Lantern Corps and later on Justice League Antarctica might be my personal favorite. He's a funny little quirky dude. He reminds me of, I don't know, me maybe? Who knows? He's this quirky underdog, literally. Look at him, he's a dog. He instantly reminded me of Peppy Hare from Star Fox, just like this wise looking dude. He's actually disliked by other heroes and is often looked upon as the loser despite how incompetent he may be. Okay, maybe I don't relate to this guy as much as I thought. Or do I? He can't even read a map. So I mean, come on dude, you gotta figure it out. He tries his best though, he's brave and he's super honorable. I feel like a character such as himself would be great to see in live action. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would relate. He kinda reminds me of Dustin from Stranger Things, the way he wants to help, and he has his moments where he genuinely kicks some ass. Nort's uncle, Newt, pushed him through the Green Lantern training, so he's more than capable when the opportunity arises to do so. Number 10, Bob. Hands down the best name for a superhero sidekick, period. We have Bob. Making his first appearance in Cable and Deadpool issue 38, Bob is a former member of the terrorist agency known as Hydra. Hail Hydra. But most importantly, hail Bob. So how did Bob get into Hydra in the first place? What are you doing, Bob? Well, his wife Allison was giving him a hard time for not being able to get a steady job. So he figured he would work for Hydra. Classic. He wasn't a big fan of the organization though, only because they didn't have dental coverage. I mean, fair. Not a bad point, Bob. Valid point. Funny enough, Bob made a brief cameo in the 2016 Deadpool movie, where in the final battle of the film, he caught up with him, talking about Bob's wife Gail and her amazing tuna casserole, right before a quick headbutt knockout. But don't worry, Wade dragged Bob off screen to safety, or so we assume.
Number 9, Elsa Bloodstone. I can already hear the fans of Elsa Bloodstone raging in an uproar of that they know Elsa and how dare I put her on this list. And while yes, Elsa Bloodstone does have some very passionate fans, I will add that there are actually a lot of Marvel fans out there who are unfamiliar with her. Trust me, I know some pretty intense fellow comic nerds who have never heard of her until running into her in Marvel Strike Force. I'm looking at you, Dylan. So I thought it might be nice to talk a little bit more about this character who is super awesome, but tends to be less celebrated and not as well known to most. Elsa was born into a legacy of monster hunters. Her father Ulysses was a monster hunter before her, and so it was her destiny to defeat monsters while working alongside the good ones. Let's not forget that the Marvelverse also has a whole other horror and monster aspect to it as well. After all, Blade is also a part of Marvel. Have we ever gotten a Blade and Elsa team up, by the way? That is something I'd love to see. Should have already happened at this point.
Number 8, Jasper Sitwell. He made his comic book debut in 1966 in Strange Tales issue 144 and his cinematic debut in Thor 1. We all remember that agent Natasha Romanoff kicked off the building in Captain America Winter Soldier. That was the big reveal moment for the Falcon. But who was the agent that they were threatening? Well, Jasper Sitwell posed as a high-ranking SHIELD agent. In reality, he was actually working for Hydra. This dude wasn't close too, like him and Coulson were the ones that got the call about Thor's hammer first landing on Earth. And he was one of the secret masterminds behind Project Insight. Could have been worse though. In the comics, Sitwell is actually Nick Fury's assistant, and at one point temporarily becomes the director of SHIELD. Sitwell is played by Maximiliano Hernandez in the MCU, so if you want to see him on the big screen, you've got a little bit of catching up to do.
Number 7, Lindsay McCabe. Lindsay is the best friend of Jessica Drew. You maybe never knew that she had? Me personally, I thought Jessica's best friend might be Carol Danvers, and maybe now that might be more true, but throughout the later 70s to the mid 90s in the comics, Lindsay McCabe was it. She and Jessica met while living in New York at a group therapy clinic. Jessica liked Lindsay because she was a tough, strong woman who wasn't afraid of Jessica or intimidated by Jessica's strange powers. Eventually, the two moved to San Francisco together when Lindsay got the opportunity to study theater there. Lindsay herself was an actress. Lindsay would eventually learn Jessica was Spider-Woman and would also spend some time working with Jess when she had her private investigation agency. She would also try to help Wolverine in the disguise of Patch, whom she also knew previously, though did not actually recognize. She didn't know it was Wolverine, thought it was Patch. to save her friend Jessica when she was possessed by the Black Blade, aka the Muramasa Blade.
Number 6. Space Knights. Okay, these guys are awesome, and I hope we get a Space Knights show soon, or in my lifetime at least. They're fairly new to the game, having first appeared in Guardians of Infinity issue 2, only back in 2016. So a long time ago in the Outer Rim, a substance known as core was discovered. This substance gave a little bit of flair to the Perrin's warriors' weapons. So led by Horn, the warriors saved the planet from slavery. One thing to note about core that's rather important is that if it's sitting too long, it would corrupt the soldiers. So they always have to get a move on. Kind of like if I'm near chocolate milk at any point in my life. It's just eventually going to corrupt me, and then I'm going to have to chug all of it because I have no self-control as a human being. Get it away from me. Gone. So as time went on, more and more joined in on the warriors' efforts, and the group came to be known as, you guessed it, the Space Knights.
Number 5. PEEPERS. PEEPERS is one of those much lesser known mutants who has been around for quite a long time, but due to his unimpressive power set, pops up a lot less in comparison to others. Similar to Eye-Boy, PEEPERS' powers all kind of have to do pretty much with his sight or his eyes. A physical mutation made his eyes larger than most, so much so that they kind of protrude outward to an extent. He has enhanced eyesight, X-ray vision, and was sometimes even known to be able to fire optic blasts out of his eyes, similar to Cyclops, but not really on the same level as the X-Men team leader. PEEPER's legal name is Peter Quinn, and while I haven't seen him pop up yet in the Dawn of X line, and hey, I've been watching for that, he has made a recent appearance in Marvel's Ravencroft series, where he appears to be working as an orderly or a medical assistant at Ravencroft. Pretty random.
Number 4. Ella Whitby. Making her comic book debut back in Deadpool Volume 2, issue 40, Ella Whitby was the doctor who helped Deadpool escape Crossmore Institution in England. But it wasn't long before she confessed her love for the Merc of the Mouth. Wade, however, didn't share the same feelings. Ella started to become a bit of a stalker, I guess you could say. She confessed her love to him again, only this time not so fashionable, with a homemade Deadpool suit attached to her body. So Deadpool starts to get curious and goes to her house. Turns out she's collected body parts of Deadpool. So Deadpool realizes that she's probably going for the Warden next to make Deadpool happy and all. So he goes to Warden's house, and just as he had expected, she was waiting there to kill the Warden in just the way Deadpool would do it himself. That is, by boiling tea made with ammonium nitrate on the stove with a plastic bag in the oven filling with gas. So after the explosion, Wade went back to her apartment, met up with a very burned Ella, and told her that he loves somebody else. Hashtag Wade the Heartbreaker.
Number 3. Amazing Baby. You might not know Amazing Baby just yet because, well, they're a super new character, but they also exist as a throwback to an older X-Men enemy, the Werewolves. Werewolves were an enemy of the X-Men that were almost shapeshifters. Almost. Their ability allowed them to drain their enemies of their life energy and then basically wear their skins like a suit, disguising themselves as that person. These werewolves originally hailed from Mojo World and were sentient, wolf-like, metallic-looking creatures. Amazing Baby is a werewolf pup that the Excalibur team in the Dawn of X line rescued from Cullen Bloodstone. Yes, relation to Elsa, who we talked about earlier. Cullen's her brother. The rescue pup was then given to Rachel Summers, who agreed to look after the little one despite how dangerous the mutants know this pup could grow up to be. She named her pet werewolf Amazing Baby, and you can also see him pop up in the Dawn of X's X Factor series alongside Rachel.
And number 2, Macho Gomez. Making his debut in Deadpool Volume 2, issue 32, Macho Gomez is said to be the baddest, most feared operator in the galaxy, and his name sure does sound like it. He's a skilled fighter when it comes to shooting. He's got 6 fingers on each hand instead of 5, so he has that extra accuracy, you know? He's got that one little flip-flop over for stability. He's kind of like a Mandalorian bounty hunter in a way. He has the cockiness and the attitude to follow suit as well. When he was hired to assassinate the family of Reginald Harris, he was actually tricked into thinking Deadpool had already done the job before him. So naturally, he was kind of pissed and wanted to get back at him. Now, fighting Deadpool is usually a pretty tough task. So Macho Gomez lost the battle more than once. And after losing a battle to Deadpool, Macho was pushed into an escape pod and sent into the depths of space. Meanwhile, Wade took his place and replaced him at Funzel, even marrying Orkza. That's Deadpool for you, I don't know.
Number 1. CANDRA. I love how when CANDRA first appeared in the comics, she already came with a ton of backstory and power. The funny part was that although she threw her weight around as this supervillain of sorts in Gambit issue number 1, and was this immortal who had ties to tons of other characters, this was our first time meeting her. What an introduction! During her initial appearance, CANDRA was revealed to be the Benefactress, a character who had pitted the Thieves Guild and Assassins Guild of New Orleans against one another for centuries for her own purposes. She is also heavily implied to be a former lover of Gambit's, and we'd come to know her as a member of the often now forgotten Externals, an immortal, often villainous group of mutants who are insanely powerful, and not to be confused with the Eternals, which is a totally different group. And Externals as well cannot die! Well, for the most part. Remember Celine? She was also a part of the Externals, but Celine simply became much more popular, so we still know who she is.